You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
What is up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of...
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
The Tone Mob Podcast. This week, I have a very special guest, Mary Gauthier. Mary is at this point, kind of legendary singer-songwriter, and she has a crazy career. We get into that very heavily, so I won't spoil the whole thing here. If you've never heard her music, you should definitely go fix that. You'll be able to find that in the description of this podcast or the show notes or whatever the thing where the words are, wherever you're listening to this, because it gets blasted on all platforms these days. And yeah, wherever the words are, go check that out. Just a tiny bit of housekeeping before we get into this episode. I just want to let you know that it's official. The Summer of String Joy event is going right now, and we very seriously upped the ante for this one. This year, we are giving away an actual 1978 Fender Telecaster Custom. That's right, a real deal, not a reissue, not a custom shop, the genuine article, a 1978 Fender Telecaster Custom. Head over to stringjoy.com for all of the official rules, but yeah, we wanted to go hard on this one, and we've got a lot of rad stuff planned for the Summer of String Joy, starting it off with this giveaway for the 1978 Fender Telecaster Custom, which, as a sidebar, is, as some of you know, one of my very favorite guitars. I have a 1974 Telecaster Custom, and no, you can't have that one, but you can have the 78 potentially. Again, head over to stringjoy.com for all the official rules. All right, without further ado, let's get into this one with Mary Gauthier. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, a show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland. With me today, I have Mary Gauthier. What's going on?
Hey, Blake, good to see you.
I did some research to make sure I got the name right. I've only ever read it until today.
Well, thank you for saying it right. It's a Louisiana name, and it's hard to pronounce if you're not from Louisiana or Mississippi. So it's Cajun French.
I like it. It's good. It's good stuff. Well, thank you for taking the time to hang out. This should be a good time. It's pretty low key, and we just kind of get into it. But I know a lot about your story. I've listened to your music off and on throughout the years, but I don't know if I've ever heard anybody just dive into instruments with you. And that's kind of what we do here. So, when did you first start playing, and what was that guitar?
Well, my relationship with instruments has been pretty interesting. I came to songwriting and music later in life. So I was in the restaurant business for many years as a chef and a restaurateur. I had restaurants in Boston. I had 3 different kinds of restaurants, 3 different locations. I had a Louisiana-style Cajun restaurant next to Berklee College of Music.
Oh, cool.
And sort of next to Symphony Hall, in between Symphony Hall and Berklee College of Music in Boston. And I had a Cajun, like the Cajun Cafe for about 15 years. I had a small little takeout restaurant at the bottom of Beacon Hill for quite a few years, only to-go stuff. And then I had a clam shack on the beach in Dorchester, Massachusetts. And I started writing songs at about 5 years sober. I got arrested for drunk driving in 1990. And after I got arrested, I got sober. And after I got sober, I started going to open mics. So at that point, I was in my mid-30s, older than most who start, and through going to open mics, I became just fascinated with becoming a better songwriter, and fixated on learning how to do it. And 10 years after going to my first open mic, I started contemplating leaving Boston, coming to Nashville, where I now reside, and taking songwriting on as my job. And so my relationship with instruments is I don't come at it as a geek at all. Mm-hmm. I started with, when I was a kid, I had a round back Ovation, and it was the only guitar that was an electric acoustic at the time. It came with the pickup you plugged in, and so I got one of those, and then when I started going to open mics, I was looking around and I saw people with a variety of instruments. I didn't know what to get, so I went to the music store and they guided me to Taylor, mm-hmm. Which they said was at the time that this is 25 years ago, was an up and coming brand and sturdy. And so I grabbed a Taylor and a 12-string Taylor. Which eventually led to me being an endorsee of Taylor guitars. And I had 3 or 4 of them at one point. But I also was watching pretty closely Steve Earle, what he played, and he had this double pick guard Everly Brothers black Gibson. I think it was a J45, and I really liked the look of it, and I liked the sound of it. When he played rock and roll hillbilly guitar, and I love that. I just love that. So I got one of those, and even though I had a Taylor endorsement, I enjoyed the Gibson more, to be honest, just for what I was doing. That led to a bunch of years of playing that guitar, and then I started getting more into the older Gibsons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the Gibson, excuse me, I'm a Gibson fanboy in a lot of ways. I just kind of grew up always wanting one and never thinking I was going to be able to get one. And both on the electric and the acoustic. And I feel like they're one of the only brands that is sort of equally respected in both areas. Like, everybody loves Fender, but very few people are like, I really want that Fender acoustic. It's just not really their thing. Everyone wants a Telecaster. But something about those classic Gibson acoustics, they just scream. I don't know. They've always been something that I've been drawn to. My number one acoustic's a 74 J160E. My dad's kind of like dream. I remember when he turned 40 when I was a kid, he's like, I want to get a really nice acoustic. So he got a SJ200. So that's been like the gold standard for me ever since. I love Gibson acoustics. They just do something for me as well. I totally understand. They
age really well, like a fine wine, and as they get lighter and the instruments lose their water weight, the tone deepens and richens and thickens. And I love the bottom end. Mm-hmm. It's that bottom end that calls to me. And I didn't know anything about that when I got started. I mean, like most people, when you get started, you kind of look, well, what are my heroes playing? And in the early days, I looked to people like Chris Smither and Nancy Griffith, and they were playing, I think, C112 Taylor cutaways.
Right.
And they had the built-in EQ. They plugged up nice. They stayed in tune. The fretboards were fantastic, but they didn't have the bottom end. You could get there with gear, but it wasn't intrinsic to the instrument. With these old Gibsons, that bottom end is intrinsic and gets deeper every year to the instrument. Now, I don't know how Taylors age. I traded my Taylors in, but I imagine they probably resonate as they lose their water weight.
Yeah, and it's just the design of Taylors. I don't I'm getting a little bit out of my out of my depth here, but everyone kind of knows them for that real sparkly sound, which has its own place, I think. But I'm more like you. I'm very attracted to the lower end for whatever reason. I love baritone guitars and down tuning, not just for heavy music, but just in general. Even playing cleaner and more acoustic. I love playing in drop C. Even on just a regular acoustic guitar, I just really like that kind of just take a couple steps down. It just sounds bigger and bolder to me. It's what my ear has always gravitated towards.
Yeah, I don't really think of myself as much of a player, to be honest. I'm not much of a player. I'm a songwriter primarily. I'm a word. My strength is words. I play simply. I try to pick cleanly and keep it within my capability. I'm not flailing about. I try to play clean, but I'm not a great player, and I've because coming to it late, I focus much more on getting the songs right. But tone is so important to getting the song right. Tone really matters.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I approach things similarly. I'm not a monster player by any stretch. I kind of focus on the songs and the riffs, and that's where I like to live. And I don't get too technical. It's not even something I love watching other people do it, and I appreciate the effort that goes into it. But it's not I don't want to do it bad enough to put that time in. I have other things that I'm interested in pursuing.
Well,
musically.
and there's another thing, just play to your strengths. Some people just have aptitude for it. And it's so impressive that they can make their fingers do those things, on command. It's astonishing, really. I probably couldn't do it if I practiced every day. For me, playing to my strengths, I just want to play clean and write songs that make people feel something. I'm more about emotion. And I don't think emotion has a relationship with complexity. I think that emotion tends to be playing the right notes in the right sequence in a way that that attaches itself to the words of a song that then generates meaning and depth. That said, those 8 bars in the middle matter, and the solos matter, and I hire guitar players. I don't try to go past what I can do as a player. I know my limits. And for some reason have never been that curious about the finer points of playing the instrument. I'm just pretty much in this box songwriter, and I want to write like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be a shredder.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and hey, that worked out pretty well for them. So
not a bad gig if you can get it.
Right, 100%. So when you approach songwriting, and lyrically, that is something that I've always noticed with your music. They're very strong. Do you come at that from I know you obviously pour a lot of your life experience into this, but does that come from like a literary place, or do you look at songwriters like that as your primary inspiration?
Well, both. I see myself as a troubadour. I'm a storyteller, and the work that I do in the art of song is to convey story and generate emotion. So I read a lot. It is part of my practice to have my face in a book at night, because I want to be immersed in words and language and ideas. But I don't get complex. So literary may to some people sound highfalutin and complex, like you got to go to college. No. Story can be told by anyone. And the magnificence of great songs is that they're wrapped around great stories.
100%. I like that you said that, because I'm a big fan of listening to The Moth. I
love The Moth.
Yeah, see, I figured you probably were also a fan. They and some of the people that come on there that have the best stories don't have a highly educated background necessarily. That's not what it is. And it's not that you can't tell a great story if you are highly educated, because some people will try to take that attitude as well. And that's not right either. It's just about what is the story and how do you deliver it? Because a good storyteller can make something that seems rather mundane, like running to the grocery store, an epic experience for the listener. And that's its own skill.
Yeah, it's attention to detail. It's attention to what matters in a story, and what matters in a story is the humanity inside the story. And so I think that understanding what makes people tick is part of the job as a songwriter. What is it that is inside that character? What are their motivations? What do they love? What do they hate? What is their dream state? What are their motivations? I want to get inside a character and get behind their eyes and leave myself for a while and write from another point of view. Now, of course, my songs, a lot of them are through my own eyes, but they always take a turn. It's never just singing my journal. That's boring. It starts often as me, but then it'll go into something bigger than just an individual.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that I think gets mixed up. I was having a big podcast yesterday where we were discussing Nirvana's In Utero. And a lot of people were, even now to this day, view it as Kurt Cobain kind of telling his story about how he was feeling and what he was going to do. And he's on record in interviews saying that that's not what it is. But in light of what happened, it's a kind of an easy line to draw to say, oh, he said this and then this happened and oh, this happened. And maybe some of that's true, but it's, I think, an oversimplification of somebody who was rather complex. And I think that songwriting and storytelling in general, while it always comes from a person, I almost feel like it comes more through a person. And maybe you're channeling something that isn't there, or channeling something that isn't you, rather than actually just 100% it being your own thing. Because I think we're all kind of connected in a way we can't necessarily touch. Not trying to get too hoity-toity here, but that's just is something that's been going through my mind a lot lately.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and that's actually what I do. Much more than understand the intricacies of guitars, I try to understand the intricacies of songwriting and conveying to large groups of people stories that they care about. I mean, the deal is we got to get the audience to care. Now, you can do that if you're a virtuoso because the audience is impressed. Impressing an audience is one way to get them to care. But another way to get them to care is make them experience deep emotion. And that's my kingdom. And Kurt was one of the masters of that. He made you feel. The thing that he did that was significant, in my opinion, was that he made us believe him.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are impressive, but you don't necessarily believe them. They're just impressive. He was believable, and it transferred into my experience of listening to him as empathy. Like I felt what he was feeling, and that's a powerful gift when a songwriter and singer can do that. And yeah, songs, if they're just about the self, tend to be narcissistic and boring. We don't want to hear somebody singing their diary. We want to have somebody sing us our diary.
Mm-hmm.
That's the switch that flips when a song gets good.
So taking a few steps back, since I didn't realize for some reason that you had came into it as late as you did. I knew it was a little later than most people, but starting in your 30s with music I've done a lot of interviews at this point, and I don't know if I've talked to anybody that started in their 30s. Usually 20s is considered a little bit late. But obviously you developed an extreme appreciation and you had a talent there. And was there anything when you were younger that led you to believe that maybe this is something that I would be into, or how did you even happen upon this?
Well, I'd always been a fan. I always had guitar. And I played it, but I didn't play it publicly, and I wasn't thinking of myself as a possible professional musician. It was more of a hobby thing that I did haphazardly. And I honestly had a huge problem with drugs and alcohol. So it wasn't like I was actually thinking clearly. I was just kind of bouncing from scenario to scenario, and whatever, room I face planted in, that's where I was. It wasn't a thought out thing for me to not be a musician or be a musician. It was my life was a mess, and I could work in restaurants and pull that off because everybody else was a mess too. It's a great place for messy people. We find our way through, the craziness of kitchens, with the mental part of addiction kind of works in restaurants. You can get psyched for the rush and then blow off steam after, and it's just it's a hotbed of folks like me. Once I got sober and everything kind of slowed down mentally and spiritually for me, and I found myself with time on my hands, that's when I started thinking more clearly and got drawn right in pretty quickly to playing these open mics around the Boston area, Cambridge, and I found myself just fascinated with songwriting.
Hey, Rocky.
What's up, Vincent?
Did you hear about the latest?
Latest what?
The latest drop from Maris. It's totally insane.
No, tell me more.
Maris just released Enzo X.
What's that?
Enzo X is a supernova expansion from the original Enzo into the highest quality and most flexible studio synthesizer ever created in a pedal format.
Whoa!
Enzo X combines 5 synth types, 5 drives, 3 reverbs, and 5 modulations. It also includes a full 2.5 second stereo delay, all in one pedal.
That sounds hard to use.
It's not. The UI is from the same family as the Mercury X and the LVX. It's super easy to dive in and see exactly what you are tweaking in real time.
Oh, I see. It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
Is it this for guitars, though?
Nope. You can plug almost anything into the Enzo X, including your MIDI controller.
That sounds incredible. Where do I get it?
You can pick up Enzo X online at maris.us or at any of their fine retailers across the globe.
Did you just say across the globe?
They know what I meant.
Wait, are we getting paid for this?
I'm still waiting on that cash money from last time.
He better at least give us pizza for dinner.
I'm not giving him his Enzo X back until he does.
For more information, make sure you check out maris.us, and apparently I have to go order a pizza. How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, Let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff. Do you remember the first song that you wrote that you really felt like, hey, I think I'm onto something here?
Yeah, it was a song called I Drink.
Oh, related. Yes.
Yeah, a song about my alcoholism, but not just my alcoholism. In my mind, the character was a guy, and I modeled it after a gentleman that I knew in Cambridge named John Lincoln Wright. And he was an alcoholic. He never got sober. He did die of the disease. But he was one of the great country singers of New England. And I just loved him. And he always had the best hotshot band. He had the best band in Boston, and he had the best band in New England. He had the best fiddle player, the best guitar player, the best bass player. His band was badass. And I just loved him. And I went to his shows and thought he was just the greatest. But he was a mess. And so I kind of married my own situation to Lincoln. And the character in that song, in my mind, is a man. It's not me or Lincoln. It's a composite. But I think that's the first song I wrote that's a good song.
Okay. And then when you were playing the open mics and stuff, when you started introducing these things, was it nerve-wracking? Did you feel pretty confident doing so? What was your mind like at that time?
I was horrifying. It was terrible. It was the worst. I sucked. I didn't know how to be in front of an audience. I didn't know how to play and sing. I didn't know how to not be self-conscious and nervous and worried about all things and watching myself intently. I didn't know how to let go and relax, and I had no idea. I had to learn all those things in real time in front of real audiences. It was a miserable go for quite a few years, but for some reason I kept going, and I think that's the important thing. If listeners are relating to the stage fright, it can be burned off like fog. You got to burn it off. You got to just at some point do it long enough so that you're going to do it no matter what. You got to survive everything going wrong and know that it won't kill you. And at a certain point, you just get exhausted being so scared, and the fear wears itself out like a fog burning off.
I can relate to this in a different way. I'm not a person I've performed publicly a few times, but getting started with social media stuff and starting the podcast, people didn't see my face for a long time. It was all just the guitars and the pedals and the stuff. It was all about the stuff. And they would even hear my voice because this was an audio only thing for a long time. And I just wasn't really comfortable. I've referred to the camera a few times as like staring at the eye of death because it just made me uncomfortable for some reason. But through reps, just kept doing it. I did it a couple times and then I just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And then I'm like, now it's like, I don't even think about it. It used to freak me out.
Yeah, you burned it off. Fear is funny like that. It convinces you that this is a life and death situation, and that's such a gross exaggeration, and it's not reality based. And that can get smaller if you just keep showing up over time. But it's uncomfortable and unpleasant. And if you're any kind of awake and you're not good at it yet, you're not good at it yet. And that we don't like that because we want to be good at things and we want to be respected and admired and we want to shine and you can't shine until you get shiny. There's a learning curve to these things. And yeah, in the beginning, it was very, very hard. It took years. And sometimes I still get nervous, but I don't get terrified. Mm-hmm. I know that even if I forget the lyrics and drop my guitar, I can pick it up and somebody's going to shout out the words and we're going to keep going. It's going to be fine. It's not going to kill me.
Yeah. I mean, we always make the worst case scenario like, oh, what if I forget? Or what if I mess this up? And the reality is then you start over.
Everybody forgets.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. But we make
Yeah.
it a big deal. And nobody wants that to happen. And, ridicule is a thing. I think that's like part of I don't know this for a fact, but I wonder if, since so many people's biggest fear is public speaking and public performance, I think that comes from maybe the old days when, if you were ostracized from the tribe, that meant you're probably going to die. But now, we just can't quite kick that thing in our brain, because I think, if I remember correctly, the number one fear people have, or maybe number two, is public speaking.
I think it's number one.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's primal. You can't explain it rationally because it's irrational.
Mm-hmm.
It's primal. But I think that doing it over and over again, you can overcome that.
Yeah. I mean, there's evidence all over the place. You're evidence of that. I am to a lesser degree, but it's still a thing. It used to weird me out that people would be listening to this. I'm like, people are going to listen to this. I don't know if I should do this. Why am I the guy that's doing this? Because it was pretty early. It was like 2015. Podcasts were just starting to become a thing that people even knew. I can't tell you how many years I spent having to tell people what a podcast was before an interview. It was it was a long, long time before people understood it. But it's kind of strange to take that first leap, no matter what. Unless you're born into showbiz, I feel like it's always a foreign thing.
Well, you're putting yourself in front of people's judgment, mm-hmm. and that's there's something at risk. It costs you something. There's people who aren't going to like it.
Yeah. And if you're a people pleaser, the way I tend to be, it's that's scary. People not going to like it. Oh no, what's going to happen? It's kind of crazy. But so when you were in the restaurant business, you kind of talked about it like, I was a mess. I would just wake up in whatever room I stumbled in. Yet you owned multiple businesses. That takes a certain amount of clarity. I mean, I'm trying to get an idea of what this time in your life was like, because it's inspired things moving forward. But how did you manage addiction and running multiple businesses? Most people can't even handle running one business.
I was very driven, extremely ambitious, and I wanted it. I wanted it really badly. But it was hard I didn't drink at work. That was one of the things that I managed to keep separate. I just didn't. I didn't drink at work. And I worked a lot, but when I wasn't at work, man, it was bad. And I'd come to work hungover, and I'd come to work groggy and foggy, and not at my best. And because I was in trouble with drugs and alcohol, I wasn't making good decisions at work. My mind, I was always distracted. My focus was never what it could have been if I wasn't distracted. So I look at those days as, yes, I was hungry. I was driven. I was ambitious. I really wanted it. And I didn't want to work for anybody else. I never wanted to work for anybody else. And I've never have after college. I just didn't work for anybody else. And I'm an extremely hard worker. So that's part of the success story. But underneath it, there's this emotional, spiritual disaster area. My personal life was catastrophically bad. And running a restaurant means running an enterprise with a lot of people and personalities. And I wasn't great at it. I mean, I was good at the mechanics, but I wasn't great at the people part. And I wish that I could have a redo in a way, because the people that worked for me and with me didn't get the best Mary that they deserved. They were giving me their time and their effort, and I was just constantly distracted.
So you've mentioned this a couple times, and I'm curious. The getting sober is part of it, and then you find you've got this time on your hand, and you mentioned like the spiritual side was a mess as well. Like I imagine that means you had to do a bunch of work on that once you realized that there probably was a spiritual side to yourself. What did that look like?
Yeah, that's a process, right? What is spirit? You start there. What is that? What is that um, what is how does that manifest in day-to-day life? And I think it has to do with values. I think it has to do with what it is that is important to me, and what it is that I set as a priority. And spirituality has a lot to do with how I treat other people and how I do or don't um respect other people. And so the process of becoming a more spiritual person has been the process of learning about love, in my opinion, learning about humility, empathy, compassion, learning that uh, I'm not as bad as I thought I was, and I'm not as great as I think I am. That those two notions are blown out by the disease of addiction. That arrogance and the self-loathing combined, just like a mental illness. Just finding my way to center and to equality with other people, and there's such a peace that comes from just being another clown at the circus. Um, to put it simply, and being right-sized in my own heart around other people, to not be lesser or greater, and to act that way around people, and to behave in such a way that they feel comfortable with me and I feel comfortable with them. That's what I think spirituality is. I'm not looking at it as a religion or something to do with God. Even it's more of a, a, a behavior-based on an ability to love and find relationships that last and work and resolve conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned humility, and I think I hear a lot of discussions online and in person and on this show sometimes too about imposter syndrome. And I've definitely had that. I was almost going to say suffered from it, but I don't think that's the right term. I definitely have experienced that many times because, like you, I came from a completely different world, obsessed with music, obsessed with all this stuff. And then through just being stubborn and refusing to quit, eventually weaseled my way into a weird corner of the music industry that I really enjoy. And then at one point found myself in a very nice studio in Nashville with all these people that I'm viewing as the real deal. Well, these people are it. I'm not here. Like, I'm just accidentally here for some reason. And I think imposter syndrome, while it's uncomfortable to experience, it actually is kind of a good thing, because as soon as you start you don't want to like be debilitated by it, but I think as soon as you start acting outsized, like, I deserve all of this, I'm a great dude, look at how awesome I am, that's not good either. So I think some level of imposter syndrome comes from humility, and I think it's a kind of a good thing. I don't know how you feel about it or if you've experienced it that way.
I haven't thought a lot about it, imposter syndrome as such, but I do think about being right-sized. Like, do I belong in the room with these people? And sometimes I sit in awe that I'm allowed into the room with my heroes, and sometimes on stage with my heroes, swapping songs. And there's moments where it becomes almost surreal, and I leave my body. It's like, how did I end up here? Swapping songs with Steve Earle, Emmylou Harrison, Lucinda Williams. Like, oh, is this the Peter Principle in action? Have I risen to my highest level of failure? Like, is this where it all falls apart? Like, terror can come, and then I realize, it's a gift, because honestly, I should be dead. Like, instead of being terrified, be grateful. Just be grateful you're alive, and they're treating you like you belong next to them. I honestly don't know exactly where I belong. I'm just like you, somehow managed to work my way into this thing and it's working okay. But I think everybody feels that way.
And I've ran into some people that, at least maybe I don't know how they felt internally, but they behaved as if they didn't feel that way. And it's a bit awkward where you're like, because then you come at it from the other end. You're like, look, you're just here with all of us. You're not any better than, any
You might
of
be a
us.
better guitar player, but that doesn't make you a better human being.
Exactly. That's what I mean by better.
It doesn't make you worth more in the eyes of the Lord. It that kind of arrogance is either just straight up arrogance or it's a mask for some kind of insecurity.
I think it's often number two there. I think that's usually what it really is. And I kind of understand it, because when I was a younger dude, especially as a teenager, I covered up my insecurities with bravado. So I understand that why your lizard brain tells you to do that. But hopefully as you go along, you learn to adapt and change and make more sense out of things. I hope I'm doing that. I'm trying my best.
Yeah. And bottom line, just don't be an asshole. That's it. Just try to be kind and try to understand that other people are every bit as important as I am. That's my motto. And I'm not less or greater than anybody. We're all just fumbling and stumbling through our days and trying to figure out what we're supposed to do next. I don't think that spirituality gets more complicated than that. Mm-hmm. It can go into all these manifestations in theology, but for the most part, it's how we treat each other.
Yeah, 100%. So talking about some of these moments, you've mentioned them, like being on stage with your heroes. What was the first time you experienced that, and I wondered if you should be there? What was that like? Who was that?
It was Chip Taylor.
Okay.
I got to play a show with him at Club Passim early in my career, and he had a record company called Trainwreck Records. We played the show, and then we went out and had cheeseburgers after. And he said, you might fit well over at Trainwreck. I'm like, oh my God! Chip Taylor is the guy who wrote Wild Thing, mm-hmm. and he wrote Angel of the Morning, and he's an incredibly prolific songwriter. He's John Voight's brother and Angelina Jolie's uncle.
That I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And he was extremely gracious to me, and he liked the song I wrote called "I Drink," and it was like, oh my God, Chip thinks I'm good. This is the best day of my life.
Well, and now I'm sure it's come full circle a few times. There's probably people feeling the same way about you. Like, oh, I get to share the stage with Mary. This is crazy. You've been doing it a long time. And I think going back a little bit, it does seem like anybody that's going to have success in the music industry to any degree. And I think success is a term that gets thrown around. And my definition of it is, do you get to make your living in it? That's like literally it for me.
I'm with you on that. That's it. Do I know what I love, and do I get to do it?
Mm-hmm. Because for a long time, I wasn't doing what I liked, and I woke up feeling like I wasn't doing what I liked. And a lot of people wake up feeling like they are doing something they don't want to do. So that's why I think that's why it's my term or my definition of success. Because I mean, if you can wake up every day, and of course you're going to have to do your taxes and file your paperwork at some point, and there's things about it you're not going to want to do. That's just life. But as long as the main thing is enjoyable, that's really a blessing, I think.
And you get to do it over time. I mean, we're successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. It's good enough for me. And
I'll take it.
I still get to eat cheeseburgers. So we're doing it.
You're doing just fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But where I was going with that is when people look at people who do get to do it, I think it feels like it's like this unattainable thing. But what you were talking about with the restaurant stuff, where you were just like, I'm a hard worker, I'm gonna do this. You had to have brought all of that with you, plus a bunch of extra energy and time into the career. Do you credit that with a lot of this?
Yes. Well, first of all, I've never been a songwriter drunk or high. So
okay.
I have recovery as a foundation. So I can focus. I'm not distracted and all over the place like I was in the restaurant business. And I'm still, well, I'm older now. I'm not nearly as driven as I used to be, but I came to Nashville driven. Like, I'm going to find out where the doors are and I'm going to walk through them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get in there. Like,
gonna kick the doors down.
Wanted it. And
Yeah.
I wanted it bad. And I had to figure out how to get to it. And I got to it. So I think that showing up and also knowing that you can't just show up, you got to show up with the goods. Like, I had a few songs that I knew, like I Drink has been the door opener song for me. And there's a couple of others that if I walk in with those songs, people listen. And so I've just been very lucky in that the combination of having those handful of songs that people in the industry go, wait a minute, and the determination to succeed. I think that's worked really to my advantage.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Good Hertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're gonna like what you find.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I think you're on mute.
Workday's starting to sound the same.
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Yeah. Can you think of an example? Because Nashville it's my home away from home. I love Nashville. I'm there several times a year, but it can be viewed as a very sort of, for lack of a better term, gatekeepered place where like the doors are closed unless you're the person that is controlling the door, right? But you talked about, you're like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk through. Is there an example that you can think of a time where a door was closed and you kicked it open?
Every door that got opened, I kicked it open.
Nice. Nice.
I'm not the kind of artist people open the doors for.
Okay.
I got to find my way in, and you know, I came here looking for opportunity to work with my heroes. That was plan A. So how do I get to work with John Prine? Well, you need to have lunch with his manager, Al Bonetta. So I got to go find Al Bonetta and figure out how to talk up Al Bonetta and make friends with Al Bonetta and get in there so that he'll put me on with John. And so I invited him to lunch. I paid for the lunch. We talked. I gave him my record. He didn't listen. I had to keep knocking. I had to keep lunching. And eventually I got to open for John. I opened for John for about, on and off for about 2 years, which was just fantastic. When I got here, I was already opening for Guy Clark because my agent, Keith Case, was Guy's agent. So I was opening for Guy. That helped me get in with Al, which helped me get in with John. And then I had to figure out how to get in with, I wanted to open for Nancy Griffith. And so I had to find her manager and figure out how to get all that to happen. And I did. And the strategy of all this it is easier when you're older. This is the upside of being in my 40s. 20-year-olds are still trying to figure out how that works. And in my 40s, I had put myself into positions to be on boards of directors. And, I became a member of the board of Americana Music. I was on the board at the Club Passim in Harvard Square, which was an introduction to the owners of Rounder Records. I met Marilyn and Ken and Bill, who at the time still owned Rounder Records. It's been swallowed by Concord, but they're still an imprint. And they were the backbone of Alison Krauss's early career. That's where her records were, and Nancy Griffiths. And so I followed the trails, and I'm older and not as ambitious now. I'm not following trails so much, but I can teach people how to do it. Yeah, Nashville is a door town, but you can go, okay, the door won't open. I got to go around the door.
Right.
Where's the window? Where's the back door? I got a song that Dolly Parton duetted with a young man named Sam Williams on. Sam,
he's great.
He's great. Yeah, he's Hank Jr.'s son. I wrote it with Sam. Sam didn't have access to Dolly, even though his dad is Hank Jr., but he had access to Dolly's hairdresser. So he brought this song that I wrote with him to Dolly's hairdresser, which is, I think, a guy who just works on her wigs. And hairdresser gave it to Dolly. It helped that the guy's name is Sam Williams, but still, he didn't go through the door. He went around, and that's kind of how it happened, and that's kind of how it works. Unless you're in that rare position of being the it person. Everybody else got to find their way through a window, but there's windows everywhere. It takes determination.
I am relating with this so hard because this interview is a little bit of an exception, and it's starting to become more of an exception rather than the rule. But I mean, trying to get interviews for a long time. I started out interviewing guitar builders and pedal makers and things like that, and I still do that because that's what I love. But I also am like, well, why can't I talk to artists that I like? I should just see if I can. And management, again, back in the day, was like, what's a podcast? No, or just wouldn't reply. There was no way of getting through. And
right.
So I was like, what happens? We're living in the 21st century. What if I just went to their personal profile and shot them a message? And that's how it works 99% of the time when I am looking for people that I wouldn't otherwise get access to. And then I'm one of the owners of Stringjoy there in Nashville, which is why I go there so often. And boy, trying to start a string brand in 2014 is a challenging thing. It's very similar to what you're describing. Like, the store owners didn't want to carry them. Like, we make them there, we make them better, and we know that they're good. But trying to convince somebody of that who's never heard of you before, with something as boring as guitar strings, no thanks, we don't want it. So we had to go out and carve our own path and shake our own trees and try to figure it out. And I was like, when you're saying all this, I'm like, I've done this. Like, oh yeah, let's go out to lunch. You don't know me from Adam, but hey, I'm gonna buy you pizza. So who can say no to that?
That's it. And you get a musician that everybody respects to fall in love with your strings, and then you go out on a limb and say, would you walk into this music store with me and tell this music store owner that these strings are awesome? Mm-hmm. And the music store owner is so glad that great musician's in their store, and they want to, put on the Ritz for them, and they're being, there's just so many ways in. The obvious way is probably not the best way in.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the route everybody's trying to get in, and it's just too crowded. So you got to find your way around it. And you've got to have the thing, too, though, is you can't just be a conniving little. You got to have the goods.
Yes.
That is the huge icebreaker once you get in, is that you have the goods.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. There are a lot of people who are actually pretty good at coming through the window. But then they get in through the window and they're like, well, I'm here. Isn't it just supposed to work? It's
it's premature. No. Yeah, it's premature. One of the great I guess advices, if there's such a word as advices, that I was given. A great songwriter gave me this advice, that don't come to Nashville too soon, because you got one chance to make a first impression. Like, have it ready, have it ready before you appear, because people's first impressions really stick.
Yeah.
And I think that was brilliant, that if you come prematurely and you get in front of the gatekeepers prematurely and you're not ready, it's hard to get a second chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really good advice in general. You can swap Nashville out for any other thing you're trying to do. If you show up and you're hammered and sloppy and annoying, they're just going to remember you as that. Like, oh yeah, that guy showed up hammered and sloppy and annoying. Don't hire him. Like, we've all ran into that too. We've seen this happen, not just in music. It happens in construction too. I've seen it. Like, nope, that guy's not going to show up on time. Don't hire him. It's a real thing. You got to deliver the goods in whatever you're trying to do, for sure.
Yeah, and I think another part of that, an addendum to that, is what's been successful for me as a strategy is to be useful. So don't go in looking for what I can get, but where's an opportunity to give? If I can find a way to plug in and be on a board and be useful, and give my time and energy to a cause that, like Americana, that I really believe in, opportunities present themselves. I've spoken to so many people about music associations, and they go, well, they've never given me a showcase. I'm like, have you ever volunteered? They've never given me anything. Like, and what have you given them? Find a way to plug in and volunteer and help. That will increase your chances of opportunity 1,000,000%.
Yeah, that's great advice. That really is. And you can see it in the music gear world too. There's different ways. Like, well, I don't ever get anything out of that. Like, well, what'd you do for it? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more you give, the more you get. It's just, it's spirituality 101.
100%. Well, Mary, we're getting close to the end of this show, and I do have a couple questions that I like to wrap every episode up with when it's a new guest. But before I do that, I want to give you the chance to, shout out anybody you want to shout out, plug anything you want to plug. You're talking to a few thousand people right now, so the floor is yours.
Oh, I don't have anything to plug. I'm just enjoying this conversation with you. It's a good way to spend an hour. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for taking the time. I know there's a lot of things you could be doing. I thought this was going to go the way it did, so thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right. So I know you primarily play acoustic, so this question may not apply, and that's fine. But the first one is, what is your favorite Boss pedal?
I don't have any.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, that's not really her thing, but I ask it every time, so I'd be obligated to do it.
Nope,
So
I just go straight into LR bags and into the board.
do you use any effects on the LR bags setup, or is it just a DI box?
I did for a little while. I had a reverb on there, and then I can get the reverb in the house when I can sound check. So it's like, I don't want to carry things. It's heavy.
Fair enough. I like it. I think that might be the first time we didn't have an answer to that one, though. But I'm not surprised, so it's all good. All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Well, I like a really good white pizza, but I like a margarita pizza, too.
Mm-hmm.
The pizza, to me, has at least 60% to do with its crust.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm all about great crust.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite ones in Nashville? I always ask Nashville people this because I'm pretty familiar with most of them.
Gosh, it's not something I go to in Nashville.
Okay.
I try really hard to get up, go to the gym, and try to stay on the beam. But on the road, I'm hitting pizza.
Okay. Fair. Well, that's fair enough. I get it. But if you ever are wanting to stretch out a little bit, Bella Napoli does a really great Italian wood-fired thing, and they just got great Italian food in general. And Smith & Lentz Brewing has very good pie. Mm. And, of course, there's 5 Points, which is a real crowd pleaser. But, yeah, hit me up for recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, I've had 5 Points. I've had the calzones there.
Yeah. Oh, those are big.
They're
Yeah.
big and good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to eat the whole thing, and then I hate myself.
As long as you don't do it all the time, it's fine.
Yeah, once every few months. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Mary. I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. For Mary, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Alrighty, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This one, we don't actually have a bonus with Mary for this week, which is, I know, very unusual. A little bit of miscommunication there, but I'm not leaving you hanging. I wouldn't do that. No. I've got something very special for this week's bonus episode. I think you are really going to enjoy it. So head over to patreon.com, where for just $5 a month, you too can help keep the lights on over here and get access to bonus episodes and get access to the ad-free feed. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it, and I hope to talk to you more on the internet very, very soon.